This is Jay Swick from Absolute Sublime Reviews, and I'm here with Ashley C. Williams, the star of the new horror thriller film, Julia. First off, let me say thank you for taking the time to do this interview.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can you tell us about Julia, what your role is, and what the film is about?
Yeah, so Julia, who I play, is a very timid, meek, shy girl at the beginning of the film. You know, she doesn't get out much. She works as an assistant to a plastic surgeon's office, and she meets a guy there. She doesn't really have any friends or goes out on any dates, but this guy is at her work, asks her out, and he's actually very good looking. She's quite surprised by the offer, and ends up going to meet him at his house for drinks, and then they were going to go out. And of course, you know, she's not really experienced in this kind of thing, so doesn't really, know what to look out for, like any kind of bad signs or anything like that. And he ends up drugging her and gets his friends to come over and have their way with her, unfortunately. And the film surrounds Julia's journey of awakening and transformation into getting complete control and power back into her life after what happened to her. She falls prey to a very unorthodox form of therapy, and there's this woman named Sadie who helps her along the way, kind of guides her, trains her, but her therapist has some rules, and if she goes off those rules, then, he's definitely threatened, that something will happen to her if she does that. So she's not allowed to take it personally. She's not allowed to take revenge on her attackers. He has other plans for her. And, this is, of course, very difficult for her once she comes into contact with one of the attackers by accident. And he ends up, contacting her because he feels really bad about what happened. So she kind of, I don't want to go into too much detail or, spoilers, but needless to say, she ends up kind of going away from the therapy and kind of taking matters into her own hands.
All right.
But the film is extremely stylish, very dark, brooding, neon colors, very kick-ass kind of revenge thriller, and it's quite a ride. You go with Julia on her journey, and you're with her all the way.
All right. Your role as Julia was very intense. How did you prepare for it, and how was the filming process?
I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it. I was hired about 4 days before we started production, so I was just literally having to throw myself in there. Luckily, we had some similarities, the character and I, so that was very helpful. But, I had to, one of the most challenging aspects of playing her was I had to constantly keep track of where she was at emotionally with her transformation and, with the therapy and how she was growing from it. And of course we didn't shoot in sequence, so, we actually shot like the rape scene probably one of the last days of shooting. So it was kind of like that, of just constantly keeping track of where she was at, and it was a lot of back and forth. And I remember it was just very cold all the time. We shot it in the dead of winter, and most of the scenes were shot outside, so that was another challenging aspect of it. But it also really helped, it made people move faster. And, we all had this kind of exciting high about, what we were doing and what we were creating. So I loved every second of it, even the very, very cold nights that we were shooting. It was pretty intense, but very colorful.
All right. And I have to ask, how has starring in the Human Centipede changed your career and life?
It changed it dramatically. I was a stage actress up until then, and Human Centipede catapulted me into a film career. So I've been very grateful for that and the doors that have opened for me since the Human Centipede I didn't imagine myself going in the way of horror. And I do appreciate the horror genre, but I think I'm definitely ready for sort of other genres to dive into. But I think it's definitely changed, how people perceive me as an actress. I definitely have a following now, which is really nice, and fans that love my work and are very loyal. One thing about the horror genre is that horror fans are incredible. they're very loyal and will follow you and your work wherever you go, even if it's out of the horror genre. And they're super kind. So that's been kind of fun.
All right. And as a follow-up question, do you feel like starring in the Human Centipede helped prepare you for a controversial and intense role like Julia?
I think it definitely put me in a place where I was okay with controversial work. Human Centipede was definitely the highest kind of form of controversy that I could put myself in, and so Julia didn't seem as bad, I guess. In terms of controversy. So I think definitely I don't mind it. I prefer to be in kind of off the beaten path type of films that cause and stir people's minds. I like to play with that. I like to kind of shake an audience, whether they hate it or love it. It's just getting them to talk about it is what's like the best part about it for me.
Okay. And how did you like working with first-time feature-length director Matthew A. Brown and the cast and crew of Julia?
That was one of the best parts about the film, was working with Matthew. We were so on the same page with, this film, the journey of Julia, her character, and he was the epitome of like an actor's director. He was actually an actor himself before, so he really understands, how an actor works, and very good at manipulating things out of you to make a scene work. And not a lot of actors like working that way. Some get really upset, if a director takes them to a certain place that they don't want to go. But for me, I really enjoy working that way. I let him kind of take me to, some very dark places because I knew that the film needed it. I knew that the character needed it. And I was willing, as long as I felt protected and safe, that, he could take me wherever he wanted. And that's, how a lot of certain moments in Julia came out, was him and, both of us kind of working together and him guiding me through certain moments. And then the crew and the cast were just incredible to work with as well. They were super supportive, and I felt very safe around them, very protected, very just excited, because everyone that was cast was very talented and very professional. Same with the crew. So we all knew that we were creating, like a masterpiece. Like, everyone loved what we were doing. So that really helped enjoy the process.
Okay. And I know Julia is a dark and challenging film, but were there any funny stories from the set that you could share?
There were several, definitely. One that just came to mind now was, there's a scene in the film where, there's some cutting of some body parts. I don't know if you know which scene I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And during that day that we were going to shoot that scene, one of the actresses found this like prosthetic penis lying around on a prop table, and she was like holding it and kind of playing with it in her hands. And I was sitting there getting my makeup done, and she was like just playing with it, and she was like, "Can I take this home as a souvenir?" And we all just kind of like burst out laughing. She was just like serious, like dead face. Like, I want this home and I want to put it on my mantle. Because it was actually a very realistic looking prosthetic penis that we had used for the scene. So that was kind of fun. And of course, there's definitely laughs. Nothing in particular comes to mind, but we definitely had some good times.
All right.
On and off set.
All right. And congratulations on winning multiple awards for your performance as Julia. How does that feel?
Really nice, actually, to be acknowledged for your work. Is definitely something that feels really good, of course, and having, those awards on my resume definitely helps, with getting more work, of course, and having people see you in a different way. Now people see me as an award-winning actress, which is kind of nice. So yeah, it's definitely been quite the ride with this film.
All right. How do you like performing in film as opposed to theater? And was there any difficulties transitioning between them?
There definitely was difficulties transitioning because, theater is so large, in every possible way. Like, you have to be very expressive, your voice has to be big and bold, and, your whole body, the audience, to the last person of the, 100th row, or whatever, not 100th row, but, like 10th row back, has to be able to see you and hear you. So, that was something I completely grew up with. I'm also a singer, so my voice, and especially in acting school, you learn to articulate so that everybody can hear you properly. And that was something that I had difficulties with when I first started doing film, was getting used to making everything much smaller, and also letting my voice kind of go back to its original blur in a way, where it's not so precise and sharp. So that was something that I had really had to practice and continue practicing, is my voice and how that translates onto the screen, and also my movements as well. But that's one thing I love about film, is actually everything's so much smaller and internalized. So I love being able to just be natural and not have to be like overly expressive, because that doesn't seem natural to me. We don't do that in real life, and well, maybe some people do, but I certainly don't. And so it seems more truthful in film to be able to just talk at a normal level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you feel sets Julia apart from other rape revenge films?
I haven't seen many rape revenge films. One I can say, I don't know if you've heard of Irreversible.
Yes.
It's actually a really good film. Really loved that one, but I haven't seen any of the other. Like, I haven't seen I Spit on Your Grave or Miss 45 or Boys Against Girls or whatever that one is. But I think definitely Julia, it sets itself apart by the unique aspect of the therapy, and how the film is not. It's not about the rape or the revenge. Really, it's about Julia's transformation from this meek and mild, introverted girl into this powerful, vengeful goddess. So you're with Julia the entire time, her emotional journey, and that's what you're focused on. It's not about like her going out and killing these men and getting revenge, and there is that aspect of like, yes, you go girl, fucking like, badass bitch, but like that's the surface of it. So what I think is how it stands apart is the underside and the sort of more spiritual awakening aspect of it, and her journey, and how you see her transform. So that's how I think it's different, and it's more stylized and like visually it's stunning. So the world that Matthew created visually, and it really, really works. But again, I can't really compare it because I haven't seen many other revenge thrillers.
Okay. And
That's my take on it.
all right. And can you just leave us with your thoughts on Julia and why people should check it out?
Well, I mean, like I just said, the reason why I think people should check it out is because it's a really kick-ass, visually stunning revenge thriller, like no other. And I think you'll really enjoy going on Julia's ride. You're with her the whole time, and it's really empowering. And I think that most people will be inspired by her journey.
All right. I watched it last night myself, and I just want to say it was a fantastic movie, and your performance is very strong, very stylistic, and it's definitely not your typical rape revenge film. The cinematography, the soundtrack, the score, it was definitely something that stands out in the genre.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking this time, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Take care.